In the shadows of North London, there's a name that's spoken only in whispers. A name that doesn't appear in schoolbooks or newspapers unless blood is spilled or bodies vanish. The Addams family. No, not the ghoulish sitcom clan snapping fingers in unison, but a real syndicate of ruthless brothers who built a criminal empire so efficient, so feared, that even seasoned gangsters knew to keep their distance. This wasn't fiction. This wasn't cinema. This was Islington. And what they created was arguably the most dangerous and sophisticated crime Syndicate Britain has ever seen. The streets they walked were paved in fear. Their empire was sculpted with intimidation, silence, and surgical violence. And those who crossed them, they didn't get second chances. It all began with Terry Addams, born into a large Irish family in Barnsbury, Islington. The eldest of 11 children, Terry was calculating, calm, and always thinking 10 moves ahead. Alongside him were his two younger brothers, Tommy, with the financial flair and a reckless edge, and Patrick, better known as Patsy, a firecracker of violence and unpredictability. Together, they weren't just another gang, they were a system, a machine, a shadow state operating beneath London's surface. They started with the small stuff: market extortion, protection rackets, a few broken bones, some heavy whispers. But in the underworld, ambition is as addictive as power. The Addams brothers didn't want turf. They wanted domination. By the 1980s, they'd formed the Clerkenwell Crime Syndicate. On the streets, they were simply called the ATeam, a brand that inspired loyalty, dread, and silence. Their network expanded like veins across London. Drugs, stolen goods, gold, firearms, information. Every asset that mattered in the criminal ecosystem flowed through them. And their rules were terrifyingly simple. If you were in, you were protected. If you were out, you were over. One man who walked their world, let's call him Billy, spent a decade inside the machine. He describes a chilling moment inside R.A. Rass, a club owned by the family. A man walks in. One of the brothers glances up, nods, and mutters, "That one. He's got to go. No shouting, no threat, no drama." Later that night, the man is stabbed to death on a quiet detour home. Efficient, unemotional, final. That was the signature of the Addams family. They didn't grandstand. They didn't pose. They executed, literally. And their power? It didn't just come from blood and muscle. It came from brains. Terry ran the syndicate like a Fortune 500 company. Meetings were held at his £2 million mansion in Mill Hill, complete with a chandelier-lit dining room turned boardroom. Operations were streamlined. Drugs came in bulk. Stolen lorries full of cigarettes and booze were redirected and monetized with ruthless precision. Billy once said it best: "We were like a multinational PLC with a body count." And they didn't just control supply, they controlled demand. Other criminal crews would come to the Addams brothers for help moving weight. Why? Because the Addams syndicate had the contacts, the infrastructure, and the untouchable reputation to make things disappear and reappear, often as stacks of laundered cash. But make no mistake, beneath the business suits and smart cars was a core of violence that would make most street thugs shrink. When financier David McKenzie crossed the family, he didn't just get a warning. He got a bloodbath. Inside the home of Terry's brother-in-law, enforcer Christopher McCormick took McKenzie apart. Slashes. Blunt trauma. By the time Billy walked in, McKenzie's ear and nose were hanging off. There was blood on the walls, on McCormick's jacket, on the floor. And yet, somehow, in a court of law, McCormick walked free. Evidence meant nothing. Fear bent logic. Witnesses forgot. Juries hesitated. Even justice seemed to flinch at the Addams name. In 2007, Terry Addams was sentenced to 7 years for laundering £1 million, a fraction of his estimated £100 million fortune, but enough to finally break the illusion of total immunity. Tommy Addams followed in 2017, sentenced to 7 years for money laundering. A year before that, Patsy Addams got 9 years for a shooting. One by one, the kings of the Clerkenwell Syndicate were toppled. But the end wasn't clean. Terry's guilty plea came with a condition: drop the charges against his wife, Ruth. Even as the empire crumbled, the family bond held tight. Blood, after all, ran thicker than concrete. Today, the once feared Terry Adams claims he's broke. He lives in a modest council flat in Bloomsbury and insists he's unemployed. Yet in 2017, he paid over £720,000 to avoid prison. In 2019, he settled a £50,000 court bill in hours. Authorities believe the real money never left. It simply moved further into the shadows. Tommy Adams keeps a lower profile. No interviews, no appearances. But law enforcement hasn't stopped watching. They know that Tommy, once dubbed the financial brain of the operation, is too smart to retire without a safety net. The ATeam may no longer rule the streets of London, but their name still carries weight. The air still tightens when it's mentioned in the wrong pub. The legacy lingers, an echo of a time when three brothers turned Islington into their personal kingdom and ran an underworld empire that would rival the Sicilian Cosa Nostra. Billy, the former insider, looks back with mixed emotions. It was the best time of my life, he admits. We were feared, but we were respected. If you stuck with them, they looked after you. Everyone got their share. It was loyalty. If you cut one, the others would bleed. But he also remembers the cost. The paranoia, the violence, the constant weight of knowing one misstep could make you vanish. I don't miss looking over my shoulder, he says now. I had my fill of money and mayhem. But peace? Peace is priceless. So, what happens when power fades? When the knives are sheathed and the voices go quiet? Maybe the Adams brothers are retired. Maybe they're not. But one thing is certain, London has never forgotten them. And neither has the underworld. The Adams family were never just criminals. They were architects of fear, engineers of silence, and legends in a city that has seen more than its share of ghosts. If you found this story fascinating, if you want more hidden truths, more legends of power and blood in the shadows, then subscribe to Inside the Secret World of Mafia Titans. Because the underworld never sleeps. And we're just getting started.